An Israeli airstrike has just taken down 3 apartment buildings in Gaza, killing 44 people. Riarish Kontana is being pulled from the rubble alive. But buried underneath are his wife and 5 children. Only Ishkontana and 1 daughter will survive. The strikes were the deadliest of the 11-day Israeli air campaign in May, which Israel said targeted Hamas, the group that governs Gaza. The Times has uncovered new details about these attacks that show how the Israeli military used advanced, precision-guided bombs to hit Ishkontana's neighborhood more than 20 times that night. The Israeli military has said that these strikes were carefully targeted. But our investigation will show how Israel dropped some of the heaviest bombs in its arsenal without warning on a densely packed neighborhood and with limited intelligence about what they were attacking. There is no evidence that Israel struck or directly targeted the apartment buildings. They initially said that they had been aiming at a tunnel which collapsed and brought the buildings down. But weeks after the attacks, and after repeated questioning from the Times, the military said that what they had actually hit was an underground command center, but that they hadn't known its size or exact location before they bombed. Israel says Hamas intentionally builds military infrastructure under residential buildings, which would be a violation of the laws of war. The Israeli military hasn't provided evidence of what it says was the command center. Experts say that the type of Israeli strikes we documented can easily lead to catastrophe and could be a war crime.
يعني تحت الركام وفي انتظار الموت ما حطتش اليأس. يعني كثير شغلات ذكريات أنا يعني موجودة وإسرائيل خصف أخفاها.
On the evening of May 10th, Hamas fired rockets toward Israel in retaliation for Israeli police raids and evictions in East Jerusalem. Israel responded with 11 days of bombing. The campaign killed at least 230 people, according to the United Nations and the Gaza Health Ministry. During that same time frame, Hamas launched more than 4,300 rockets at Israel, killing 13 people. One of the areas most ravaged by Israeli airstrikes was the neighborhood of Rimel in downtown Gaza City. Bisected by Al-Wahda Street, it's home to malls, schools, restaurants, government buildings, and Gaza's biggest hospital, Dar esh-Shifa. It's a comparatively upscale neighborhood in an impoverished territory that's been blockaded by Israel and Egypt since Hamas took power in 2007. Because Rimel had been spared in the last Israeli bombing campaign in 2014, many Gazans considered it safe. On the night of May 15th, several families are sheltering in their homes on the same block of Al-Wahda Street. The extended Kolek family lives here, in 2 buildings that were home to 31 people. 37 people live in this building, among them Riarish Kontana, his wife, and their 5 children. At around 1 a.m., Israeli airstrikes begin to pound Rimel.
يعني في الليلة هذه بالذات كانت يعني ليلة ساخنة يعني.
The Israeli Air Force said that it launched around 100 guided bombs at Hamas tunnels across Gaza that night. The Times used videos to map where some of those bombs fell near the apartment buildings. They show more than 20 strikes across the neighborhood, including ones that damaged government ministries and landed next to a medical clinic. As explosions shake their neighborhood, Ishkontana and his wife put their children to bed and turn on the news. Then, an airstrike.
يعني بدأ وهج شديد جدا. يعني لونين أحمر وأصفر دخل تقريبا في نص الصالون. فهربت أنا بدأ الانفجار.
This drone footage, published by the Israeli Air Force on Twitter, shows the moment Ishkantena's building is engulfed in an explosion. And we geolocated this footage that shows smoke rising from or just next to the building as other strikes hit nearby. As the walls of his home collapse, Ishkantena runs to his children's room.
يعني لقيت زوجتي عمالة بتسحب في الفرشة أو بتسحب في الأولاد، يعني ما تمكنتش لأنه كان القصف شديد وسقوط السقف كان سريع.
3 buildings down is the Kolek family. Shukri al-Kolek's mother had told him to bring his wife and children there that night because she thought it would be safer.
أنا لا أعتقد في غزة كلها في مكان آمن زي المكان هذا.
He's just going upstairs to rest when the bomb lands.
سمعت دبة كبيرة، الأولاد قاعدين يبكوا، ما عرفناش وين نروح. أمي رحمة الله عليها وقعدت تحت جهاز التلفون، جيت أشيلها لفت الدار كلها ووقعنا.
An Israeli drone also captures a strike near al-Kolek's building. Zooming in on the video and looking at it frame by frame shows what looks like 2 bombs falling. And then, at least 1 detonation. The explosion envelops the Kolek building. As the neighborhood is bombarded, footage from a drone's heat-detecting camera reveals a line of new impact craters down Al-Wahda Street. Israel said that the intense bombing of the Rimal neighborhood was part of a strategy to destroy the Hamas tunnel system, what Israel calls the Metro. Hamas uses tunnels to store weapons, smuggle in banned material, and move fighters around. Doing this under a civilian neighborhood likely breaches international law. In a briefing 3 days after the strikes, former Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu accused Hamas of creating an underground city of tunnels.
They built a whole infrastructure.
He pointed to a map of Rimal marking what he said was the tunnel under Al-Wahda Street, with yellow dots indicating the destroyed apartment buildings, which the map labeled as not attacked.
We go to unprecedented lengths to prevent civilian casualties.
This footage we filmed at the scene, like the Israeli drone videos we saw earlier, shows how Israel did bomb straight down Al-Wahda Street, along the line of the suspected tunnel. These satellite images of the apartment buildings before and after the strikes show how they were totally destroyed, unlike the other buildings on the street. The Times spent more than a month investigating these attacks to find out what went wrong. And we examined the Israeli military's explanations, which have evolved as they have conducted their own inquiry. For 2 weeks after the bombings, Israel said that they were targeting tunnels when the buildings collapsed. In June, after repeated questioning, they got more specific. They told the Times that they had hit an underground command center and that they had known it was there all along. But they also acknowledged that they hadn't known its size or exact location at the time of the attack. A senior military official called the mass casualty incident a freak event. Israel hasn't provided evidence of the command center, and Hamas has denied its existence. If Israel's intent was to destroy underground military infrastructure in Rimal, the laws of war obligated them to warn civilians that they were at risk before bombing. But the Israeli official told us that the military didn't think a warning was necessary because they'd conducted dozens of similar bombings in Gaza without collapsing buildings. We watched Israeli Air Force videos to see whether they provided clues about the kind of bombs dropped on Al-Wahda Street. Many showed troops loading jets with Mark 80 series bombs and outfitting those bombs with American-made Joint Direct Attack Munition or JDAM guidance kits. These allow the bombs to strike with precision, using GPS. We visited the Gaza police, who showed the Times fragments of munitions that they said were recovered from the strikes on Al-Wahda Street that night. Looking at the markings on the tail fins, the first 5 numbers indicate that it was manufactured by Boeing in the United States, and these numbers are associated with a JDAM kit. Gaza police said that the fragments indicated the use of a GBU-31, a 2,000-pound Mark 84 equipped with a JDAM. It's the heaviest bomb that most militaries use on a regular basis. The Red Cross says weapons like these shouldn't be used in urban areas because of the potentially dangerous consequences. We found that Israeli jets likely dropped at least 4 of these bombs within feet of the apartment buildings. Israeli military officials told us that they programmed fuses to allow these bombs to explode deep underground to increase the impact on the tunnels and minimize damage above. Images of Ishkontana's home show little sign of damage to the surrounding buildings, and the roof, shown here covered in debris, appears to have collapsed intact. All this, experts said, is consistent with a nearby strike from a GBU-31 that penetrated deep underground before exploding. The Israeli military said that all the bombs that night hit their intended targets. But even if that's true, experts say it doesn't make the attacks legal. Saleh Higazi of Amnesty International said that Israel should have foreseen the disastrous effects such strikes on a dense civilian neighborhood could have. Attacking anyway, without warning, and with heavy bombs, could be a war crime and should be part of an ongoing investigation into Palestine by the International Criminal Court, he said. The survivors of the Wahda Street strikes have spent the night beneath the rubble.
كنت أحافظ على النفس ما بين النفس وما بين إن أحافظ إني ما تضلنيش أنده من خوف ما يصير عندي مضاعفات ما أقدرش أنده في وقت لاحق.
Rescuers find Shukri al-Kolak alive after 11 hours. And in the early morning, Ishkontana is also pulled from beneath his home.
فعلا إجا واحد ونادى مين عايش مين حي مين عايش مين حي فأنا صرت أنادي يا الله يا الله.
Hours later, his daughter Susie, 7 years old, is brought out alive.
لما سمعت إنه في بنت من بناتي عايشين قلت الحمد لله رب العالمين لأنه هذه البنت يمكن تنسيني حاجة ولو بالقليل من يعني بسمة بناتي لأنه هي أخته.
Her mother, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters didn't survive. In all, 22 people in the building were killed, among them 15 members of the Abu Laouf family. One of them was Ayman Abu Laouf, a doctor and head of internal medicine at Dar Shifet Hospital, where he oversaw the coronavirus response. Down the road, another 22 members of the Kolak family were killed, ranging in age from 6 months to 90 years. Without a home, Ishkontana and his daughter are now staying with his uncle.
عيد النظرة في الحياة من أول وجديد بدنا يعني نزرع الأمل.
Ishkontana had been working as a waiter in a restaurant, but the coronavirus pandemic cost him his job. Now, the airstrikes have left only him to care for Susie.
أنا يعني أمنيتي الآن الوحيدة إنه ربنا يعني يحقق لي يعني حلم بنتي.
I'm Evan, one of the producers of this video. Our team analyzed satellite images, reviewed dozens of photos and videos, consulted with weapons experts, and repeatedly questioned the Israeli military to bring you this story. It was a complicated and intense month-long team effort, but it was just one of many. You can see more of our investigations by signing up for our newsletter at the link below.